Hello, and welcome to episode 1 of the Phoenix Podcast. My name is Jennifer Coffey, your extremely grateful and excited host who's going to be with you every week talking about making big dreams come true and how you are more than equipped right now to make all of those big dreams a reality. I'll be joining you every single week and we'll be covering a lot of different topics, everything from manifestation, which is where we're going to today, to believing more in yourself and knowing that you can make those big dreams happen. Now, before we dive into that, just like I plan to do every single week, I'm going to share with you a quote. And that quote kind of helps to set the tone, maybe for the day that you've got in front of you or the night that you're going to be spending resting. Think on this quote as a theme for your day. And the quote I'm going to share with you today, I got to tell you guys, it was a no-brainer because I know there are going to be episodes where I struggle to find the right and perfect quote to share with you. But this first quote, well, it's been in my head and heart for a really long time because it has been in my head and heart in times that I really, really, really needed it. It's from a gentleman who I consider to be a mentor of mine, even though I only met him once for about 3 minutes, and he was a really, really nice guy. His name is Dr. Wayne Dyer. I hope you are familiar with his writings, his lectures. If you're not, I highly encourage you checking it out. A, because he has a really soothing voice, but also his wisdom is just, well, infinite. The quote that I'm going to share with you, it's pretty short, but actually has a lot of meaning to it if you let it really sink in. Here we go. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Let's hear it again. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Now, if you're on social media, Facebook, Instagram, there's pretty good chance you've already scrolled past that quote at some point. And maybe it resonated with you, or maybe just like a lot of other pictures, it was something that you just kept scrolling past, right? It's kind of catchy. But when we get into it, man, there's a lot to it. What's inside of it is a secret that once unlocked is going to make nothing short of miracles happen in your life. Now, I know that that's pretty big talk, and we're used to being oversold on things, right? Well, if there's one thing that I know a lot about, it's being very careful in my words, especially when selling things, which leads me into the introductory part of this podcast. I can't just launch into something if you don't know who I am, because if you don't know who I am, how can you believe a word I say? So my name is Jennifer Coffey, and if you are familiar with my voice and face already, well, that means you probably love you some television shopping, because yes, over the past 13 years, I have been a program host at QVC. And I left that job, let's see, we're in mid-February, so about 6 weeks ago. But that job itself was one of the biggest dreams of mine to ever come true. In fact, it was the first dream that came true for me after discovering the miracle inside that quote that I just shared. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And while it can be a very lengthy story, I'm going to shorten it just a little bit for the sake of time and focus. But I do have to tell you how I came to have that job and how it brings me to where I am today, sitting in front of an orange bird on an orange couch, leaving my job at what many would say is the top of my game to talk to you about making dreams come true. More than 13 years ago, I had just closed 4 clothing stores that I owned and operated in San Antonio, Texas. And if you're a former customer of mine, thank you. And I miss those clothing stores to this day, if I'm honest. It was so much fun. But I built those stores from almost scratch, a very small investment I made in opening the first one, and spent several years having so much fun with fashion and customers and helping women feel and look their very best. And we were pretty successful until the recession hit in around 2008, 2009. And after struggling for several months, I had to make the very difficult decision to go ahead and close the stores down because I was just too afraid to go into debt to try to keep it afloat. I was a single mom at the time, and my daughter was 10 years old, and we found ourselves, really, I should say, I found myself starting over with almost nothing, trying to figure out how I was going to do everything from buy Gabby's back to school clothes to paying bills to what I was going to do in my career. I didn't want to necessarily go back into retail, like working at the malls like I had before. That was fun, but gosh, I loved owning my own business, right? And to be honest, I didn't have a lot of skill outside of what I was doing in the moment, or so I thought. I did, however, know that I really loved, oddly, being in front of a microphone or a camera and having no idea what I was going to say. I loved live TV and live radio. And I discovered that because every once in a while I would be interviewed about clothing and fashion for the stores. And every time I would go in front of a camera, it just felt like I was in the zone. If you've ever been in the zone, you know what that feels like, right? But how was I going to go from broke and unemployed to getting a job in television? I didn't have an agent. I tried that briefly. I didn't like it. And I didn't have the money to keep submitting videos to all of these auditions because, yeah, they cost money. And I didn't have time. I didn't have time to be, pardon the language, farting around, trying to make a dream come true when I had myself and my daughter's mouth to feed. It was in a place of lack of direction and fear that friends of mine suggested I watch a movie called The Secret. And if you are familiar with The Secret, it's available in audiobook, in print book form, and on YouTube, I think. And I watched this video, and in the span of about 90 minutes, my entire perspective on life changed. I realized that while I had done a pretty good job in life so far, I was kind of doing it all wrong. Instead of knowing what I wanted and moving forward in life as though I had it already, I was letting life come to me and worrying a lot in the process, because that's what most of us do. And when I realized that you have to flip the script and act as if you have that dream already, well, that dream will come to you. At least that's what the book and the movie said, right? So I went to bed that night, excited, and a little confused, and curious. It's such a simple thing. It's a mindset shift. Can it work? Well, guys, I had a lot of time in front of me and not much to lose, so I decided to go ahead and give it a try. I woke up the next morning deciding that I wasn't gonna be a TV host, but that I was a TV host. Sounds crazy, right? But that's what The Secret says you're supposed to do. Doesn't cost anything to try. Let's go ahead and do it. So I decided to start waking up a lot earlier in the morning than I was, because that's what TV people do, right? They wake up really early because they have to be on camera at like 6 in the morning. I don't know. But I figured that's what they did. So I did. I didn't have, budget for new clothes, but I had a pretty decent closet, having formerly owned a clothing shop or four. So I decided to start dressing as though I had a job in television. When I went out grocery shopping, I would carry myself as though I was going to be recognized, because if you're in TV, I guess people recognize you, right? I put cards all over the house that said, I have a full-time job in television. I would plan appointments on my calendar as though I had meetings with production, even though technically I didn't. And this is the scary part. I also started turning down interviews for jobs that didn't align with what I wanted to do. I did all of that, and then I paid attention, waiting for opportunity, for sign, for something to happen. And it did. I started getting notifications in my email. Now, to be clear, I had already signed up for casting notifications, but I started getting notifications for this job, this QVC job. And man, that sounded perfect, because I already knew how to sell products and I wanted to be on TV. I think I kind of had what they were looking for, but I didn't really have much television experience. I didn't even have enough to put really into a reel except for a few moments on local TV. So I deleted the email. And I kept going about the whole manifestation thing of acting as if and practicing being on camera. And I got that notification again. I thought I had unsubscribed, but there it was again. And then I got it again. And I thought, wait, I'm supposed to be doing this differently, right? I'm supposed to just be going forth and going forward as though I already had this, right? So with the encouragement of a very good friend of mine, I recorded myself selling a crock pot and a couple of shirts and submitted that to QVC. And I went to bed that night going, they're going to call, right? And of course, part of me is going, they're not going to call. You don't know anything about TV, but you're supposed to act as if. I go to bed, I wake up the next morning, and I got a phone call from a casting director who asked if I had time that weekend to fly out to QVC in Westchester, Pennsylvania, and audition for the job. I think I probably pretended as though I had to move some things around, but I didn't have to move anything around. I had nothing going on. And that weekend, I flew out to Westchester only to find out that there were only about 13 other women in this final round of auditions. I didn't know it was the final round. There were 13 of us who were auditioning for that role out of 8,500 who had initially submitted audition reels. It was a miracle, right? All I did was stand there selling a crock pot. But there I was in the largest television studio in North America with 12 other auditioners, all of whom had resumes like this. Sideline reporter for the NFL, 10-year-plus meteorologist, actress who had been in multiple big feature films, and then there was me, the woman who had some clothing stores and occasionally was on the morning talk show for about 3 minutes in total, for a grand total of about 15 minutes in television. But folks, if the law of attraction says that you're supposed to walk in as if you already have what you want, well, I walked in there shaking on the inside, but holding my head high, volunteering to go first when it was time to audition in front of a very intimidating panel, a panel most of whom ended up being my friends years later. When we toured the studio in QVC, we were encouraged to take pictures because here we were at QVC, but I didn't take a single picture because if I was acting as if I already had the job, I wouldn't need to take pictures, right? I was coming back. Now, candidly, that was really hard to do because, damn it, I wanted to take pictures so bad to show my daughter when I got back home, but that's not how the formula works, right? So I walked through there looking around, pretending as though I was memorizing all of the hallways since I was going to be back soon, right, as a QVC host. I went through every moment to the extent that I was able, faking as though I already had the job. And when I left, I got on that plane, I went home, and I told my daughter, then 11, start packing. And we packed everything in that house, down to the food in the pantry, and save for just a few outfits in our closets, because that call was coming. Now, did I technically know it was coming? No. But the way this works is you move as though it's going to happen. So we packed it all. And every night, as I waited to get the call, I laid in bed, I closed my eyes, and I imagined that I was sitting on the couch watching TV with my daughter, holding her hand. And the phone rang. And I would answer the phone, hello. And on the other end would be my then boss, Jack, saying, hi, Jen. We're really sorry about the wait, but we'd love for you to join the team at QVC. And I would imagine that every night before I fell asleep until it made me feel so good that when I fell asleep, I had tears drying on my cheeks. I did that in a near empty house for 6 weeks. Now, I was told it would be 2 weeks max before I heard. And the only indicator that I had any shot at this after 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and 5 was that I was starting to hear from some of the other women who had auditioned that they had gotten phone calls saying that it was a thanks but no thanks. So I knew I had a chance, but I didn't know that I had a lock. And I was really starting to get scared. In fact, so scared that between you, me, and what I hope are many people listening, I had a couple of meltdowns. Worried, scared. What happens if this doesn't work? I don't have a backup plan because I'm not supposed to have one. 6 weeks went by, most of it with positive thinking and some good friends who talked me out of those low points. And then one night, I was sitting at home after dinner. I was watching TV with my daughter, and the phone rang. And I answered the phone. Hello. And on the other end, I heard, Hi, Jen. It's Jack. We're really sorry about the wait, but we'd love for you to join the team at QVC. Friends, you have only my word to go by, but I heard verbatim the same words that I had been daydreaming about before I fell asleep for 6 whole weeks. And I faked my way through that conversation as though I was honored and delighted and so eager to get there and not actually having a meltdown on the inside of joy and astonishment. I hung up the phone, I looked at my daughter, and I declared, It works. And we collapsed on the floor in a heap of hugs and tears and excitement. We're moving to Pennsylvania. Now, believe it or not, there's even more things that I could share about that story. Little signs, actually big signs that I got along the way. I didn't want that story to take too long. But I can tell you this, diving right into trying to manifest something, not even trying rather, but manifesting it, brought about what at that time was the biggest miracle that had ever happened in my life, save for the birth of my daughter. Since that miracle, I've utilized the knowledge that I've accumulated because I've read a lot of books, listened to a lot of podcasts, talked to a lot of people, and realized this stuff really does work. And I've made it work in many other ways too, including finding the man of my dreams at age 49. That is called manifestation. And that is what we're going to talk about in this podcast and many going forward. So that brings me to who I really am, because who I really am is not QVC host, and certainly not anymore, because while that served an amazing purpose in my life, brought me some of the best friends I've ever had, brought me some of the most amazing experiences, celebrities I've been able to meet. Did you see the show I got to do with Coldplay? Oh my God. I still can't believe that happened. It brought me so many miracles. But QVC host is not who I am. In fact, mom isn't even who I am. What I consider to be the most important job I've ever had. I'm not a wife. I'm not a podcast host. I'm not a yoga studio owner. I mean, yeah, those are descriptors of me, but it isn't who I am. Who I am is really what's at the heart of this conversation. And who I am is at the heart of why manifesting a goal actually works. Who I am is the exact same person as who you are. You. Now wait, how can that be? Because you and I are clearly not the same, right? Some of you listening are men. Some of you listening are teenagers. Some of you listening are grandmothers, great-grandmothers. Some of you listening have jobs like doctor or real estate agent. You're not me. How can we be exactly the same? You may not know the answer already. We are all part of a consciousness, an energy, a force far greater than the titles that we have. We are all part of God, of source energy, of love. Whatever name you want to give to the most powerful force there is, and they're all the same, that force that you are a part of, that you are, well, if you are part of that force, then don't you have the same powers as that force? The answer is yes. And you can find this in religious literature. You can find it in scientific literature. You can find it in the words of thought leaders like Dr. Wayne Dyer. You can find it everywhere. But so many of us let it wash right over us, like hocus pocus, or something loftier than what we believe, or just something that you read to kind of make yourself feel good. But it's truth. It works. You are not just a little slice of that most powerful force. You work in concert with that most powerful force. And when you recognize that and you align your energy toward that, well, that's how you can walk into a television studio with no experience and walk out with the job. That's how you can walk into a crowded room and walk out with the love of your life. That's how you can go from feeling drained of energy and hopeless or even ill, and days later feel full of life and energy and strength. It's how you can go from working a job that frankly you loathe to doing something that feels like it's fulfilling your purpose. You have that power. And this isn't just self-help talk on a stage or a TED talk that sounds snazzy and then you walk out the room and go, wait, what do I do now? When you really let it seep in, you walk out of the room, quote unquote, and you make miracles happen. Now, I can tell you my own story, but that doesn't really lay a blueprint for you necessarily, right? And I'm happy to recommend books and podcasts that are going to get you along that journey, but I want to be a part of that too. And so in this discussion, I want to get a little bit deeper into what is manifesting, what is the law of attraction, because it all sounds so woo-woo, right? But it's not. It's big, but it's actually pretty simple. So we're going to break that down. But we're about halfway through our podcast, so this sounds like a good time to recognize our sponsor. Yeah. Come on. I'm done with the years of being a QVC host, but I'm not done giving a quick plug. And this one's really easy because, at least for now, the Phoenix Podcast is sponsored by the Phoenix Yoga. ThePhoenixYoga.com is my website, or rather I should say it's the website of the yoga studio that I am grand opening in just a few days. By the time you hear this, we'll already be hosting classes in person. And we offer everything from beginner yoga to meditation, to yin yoga, which is real juicy, slow stretches, to heated power yoga, to those of you who love to get your sweat on. We are located in between King of Prussia and Wayne in Pennsylvania, just outside of Philadelphia. And of course, given the time that I'm recording this, the day after the big game, I have to give a shout out to our Eagles, who won. Very, very excited for them. And if you're not able to come to the Phoenix Yoga in person, well, that's why the PhoenixYoga.com exists. You can go there to book your class if you're in the area. But at the end of February, we will also be offering an online library of classes, both live streaming and pre-recorded. So you can join me for meditations, and you can join my rock star team of yoga instructors for everything from sunrise to bedtime yoga. We're mainly focused on beginner yoga right now because that's what folks have been asking for. And at thephoenixyoga.com, you can also find a link to book me for personal one-on-one manifestation coaching. I've got a lot of those lined up this weekend, and I'm really excited to meet friends face-to-face, or virtually, I should say, and help them get a blueprint together for making their dreams come true. So thephoenixyoga.com, PHOENIX yoga.com. Thank you so much to our sponsors. All right, so let's get into it, right? You know my story. If you read The Secret or you dig around online, you can see thousands of instances where this has worked, right? But there's a little bit of a problem when it comes to the word manifesting or manifestation, because much like anything, if it catches on social media, if it catches on in podcasts, if it catches on, if it goes viral, it's going to get twisted. It's going to get misinterpreted. It's going to have a stigma attached to it. And that's happened with manifesting as well. In fact, it's happened so much that even when I use the word, I cringe just a little bit because I think of what a lot of people think it is. I've heard manifesting your goals as witchcraft or even the occult, and I can assure you it is not that. I've heard it described as toxic positivity. Oh, just pretend like everything's perfect and then everything's perfect while your world's crumbling around. It's not that, because certainly challenges are a part of life and you are meant to address those challenges. So while toxic positivity may exist, true manifestation is not toxic positivity. I've heard it described as blasphemy, as though you cannot be of a certain faith. You can't be a Christian, you can't be a Jew, you can't be any faith and believe in manifestation. And the opposite is actually true, because in all of the great works of religious literature, there is discussion of the very same things that I'm going to be talking to you about. It is beautifully intertwined with deep faith and can be beautifully intertwined with a lack of organized religion as well. I've heard it described in many different ways, and those who get it realize it's not woo-woo or new age at all. You can make it very deeply spiritual and beautiful. Truly, at its core, it is. But you can make it very scientific as well, because truly, it is. So for heaven's sakes, Jen, can you just define manifesting? I was prompted to do this not too long ago on another podcast hosted by a good friend of mine, Kirsten Lindquist. Check her out. The name of her podcast is Stressed. Strest. And you can find that on all the same platforms that you're finding me. Well, I was a guest on her podcast, and we talked about the same topic that I'm talking about right now. And she asked me, Jen, what is manifestation, right? What does it mean? How is it going to help me get my dreams? And so, while I don't know what the Merriam-Webster definition is, here is how I define it to people. Manifestation is nothing more than aligning and matching your energy to that with the energy of what you want. Manifesting simply means you alter your thoughts, your feelings, your actions, and your words to match what it is you are trying to achieve, to have, or to be in your life. So that means if you are trying to be healthier, you shift to the mindset of someone who is healthy, even if you aren't physically currently in the best of health. It means that while you're working a job that is not your ideal, in your mind, you're going through the motions of the same person who has the job that you have, to the extent that you can without getting fired. It means that you're speaking the words of someone who's living the life that you want. It means, for example, that when I was single and tired of being single and really craved the companionship of a perfect partner, someone that I could deeply love but didn't have in my life, well, for me, it meant that every night when I went to bed, I'd lay my head on the pillow, look at an empty pillow, imagine that my perfect partner was there, and every night I would say out loud, I love you, sweetheart. Good night. And I would say that out loud for dozens of nights. And now, every night when I go to bed, I look at a pillow that isn't empty, and I say, I love you, sweetheart. Good night. It means, to the extent that you can, where you are right now, you shift your mindset, your mood, your attitude, your posture to become the person that you want to be. Yes, it really is that simple. And a lot of people don't like the phrase fake it till you make it, because the word fake is in there, right? But if it feels like faking it, we're not doing it right. You're doing it right when it feels like your current reality. Now, I know that that's a lot, and it's a big homework assignment to give you, right? So we're going to break this down. And it starts by knowing what you want, all right? Now, if you don't, we're going to talk about that too in future podcasts. But if you're not sure where to start, whether you know what you want or not, I can tell you this. As far as manifesting goes, you're already doing it. In fact, all of us are. There is something called the law of attraction that you may have heard of. The law of attraction is as true and as certain as the law of gravity. Now, I don't know too many people who walk around not believing in gravity. And even if you don't believe in gravity, guess what? It still works. In fact, one of my favorite movie quotes is from a really good movie that, if I'm honest, I feel doesn't have the best ending. And if it ended differently, it would have been such a great movie. But anyway, it's called The City of Angels. And there is a moment where Meg Ryan's character is talking to Nicolas Cage's character. And he's basically telling her that he's an angel, right? And she says, well, I don't believe in that. And he says, some things are true whether you believe them or not. And when he said that, I went, ooh, that's a good one, right? And it's true for the law of attraction as well. Whether you believe it or not, it's working all the time. Here's the problem. Most of us are using it to attract chaos and disorder and uncertainty. For all of our lives, if we're just living it, waking up every morning and hoping we have a good day, and then seeing if we do, what are we manifesting? We're manifesting maybe a good day, maybe not. If we wake up in the morning knowing that the day's going to be a drag, what do you think the day's going to be? That's an easy one. It's going to be a drag. And when we wake up in the morning really excited because something amazing is on our schedule that day, how do we feel? We feel damn good. And what happens? Usually, really good things. We are always manifesting everything that's just a few steps ahead of us because of what we believe and the way that we act and the energy that we put out. And if we wake up every morning knowing to our core that our job is going to suck, guess what? It's gonna. And if we wake up every morning worried about the unexpected, worried about the bills getting bigger, worried about our health declining, and while certainly there may be things in our body making our health decline, the more we are certain of it, the more certain it becomes. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. We're all manifesting all the time. And when we decide to wake up and live the life of the person we intend to be, successful, strong, loving, loved, healthy, wealthy, whatever it is that you want, when you start role-playing that now, it's crazy fun. Remember how fun role play and pretending to be somebody else was when you were a little kid? It's crazy fun, and it shifts your energy. Now, this is the part that we're going to spend podcast talking about later, whole quantum physics stuff, right? And you better believe I'm going to get some experts in here because there's no way I can explain that. But it actually alters your frequency, your energy. And the longer you can sustain that feeling of being wealthy, healthy, loved, in love, successful, whatever you want, the longer you can sustain that, the more you accelerate what you want toward you. It worked for me, but it doesn't need to work just for me, and it hasn't. It's worked for everyone. But most folks are just manifesting whatever and wasting the biggest gift we've ever received. The gift of being in this body, on this planet, in this incarnation, and not using the gift that God gave us, the gift of working with God to manifest beautiful things, to manifest abundance so that we can help others, to manifest health so we can be strong enough to lift up our children, to spend more time with our family, to work in charitable ways. Wasting that gift, instead waking up every morning and just going with whatever the flow brings. You get to create the flow, and that is manifestation. Now, it raises a lot of questions, and I know that there are some skeptics out there who just aren't going to believe it or get it regardless, and you know what? That's okay. But if what I'm saying makes you go, actually, wait a minute, I think I'm getting it, then I ask you to stick around, because the great news is there are tools that you can use to make this kick into high gear and work even faster. Tools that I didn't know about when I manifested that job at QVC, but tools that I did know about by the time I was manifesting Davender, my amazing husband. and tools that you can use that sometimes, if you wanted to, can cost almost nothing. Like it really costs nothing to make a vision board, right? And I'm going to walk you through how to make that vision board. And no, it's not just a bulletin board with a bunch of pretty pictures on it. There's things that you do with it that help accelerate you towards that goal. There's books that I can recommend for you. There's interviews that I want to have with people who can dive in and give us deeper insight into how this all works and how we can lock in and really accelerate toward our dreams. But before we do all that, I'm going to leave you with a little bit of a homework assignment. But don't worry, this one's really fun. And it all has to do with what you do in the last few minutes of your day. And I'm talking the really last few minutes of your day. After you brushed your teeth, and after you brought your kid the glass of water, you changed the litter box, and you turn the lights off, and after you put the ding-dang phone down, and you close your eyes. Now, this is often when thoughts start to creep in of all the crap you got to do the next day, or the things that you're going to start worrying about, the discussion that you have with your boss, or blah, 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 blah. Instead, I ask you to give your brain a little break from all of that nonsense, because tonight, before you go to bed, you're going to spend however long it takes for you to fall asleep. You're going to spend that daydreaming. Yeah, I know it's nighttime, but it's daydreaming. You're going to think about the life you want to live. And gosh, I hope you're living a beautiful life right now. But there's always something, right, that we might like. Let's say, for example, you crave a different job. Maybe you want to be a photographer full-time, for example. You love taking pictures, but you're not getting paid enough for it right now. I want you to daydream about waking up tomorrow as a full-time photographer. What would you do? What does your day look like? How do you dress? What kind of weather is going to be on your big assignment that you've got that day? What does the atmosphere of the area that you're taking pictures of smell like? Are you in the mountains, crisp air? Are you at a wedding, food, laughter, sounds? What does it sound like? This could be you on a cruise. This could be you playing with babies because you wish to have a big family, listening to their laughter. I don't know what your dream is, but whatever your desire is, what does your day look like tomorrow if you were to wake up tomorrow living that dream? Now, it's one thing to think about it, but I'm going to need you to feel it. What does it feel like? What does it feel like to be doing what you want? What does it feel like to be held by your perfect partner? What does it feel like to be free of illness? What does it feel like to have a really, really big bank account? Whatever it is that you want, what does it look like? What does it smell like? What does it taste like? What does it feel like? Think about that. And if it takes you 3 minutes to fall asleep, it's going to be a great 3 minutes. If it takes you half an hour, well, you're actually going to be grateful for that. You've got a great 30 minutes ahead of you. Daydreaming, even if you've never done it before, it's a blast. Why? Because you're changing your energy right before you go to sleep, immersing your subconscious with what it's going to be like. Because if you keep doing that, it's not going to be long before you're not daydreaming about it anymore. You're living it. And then when you wake up the next morning, I ask you to change your lens. Start looking at the world as though you live that life. As much as you can. You're going to get thrown off course a million times. But imagine like you're at the eye doctor and they switch the lens. Which one's better, number 1 or number 2? If you forget, switch the lens and start looking at the world as though you're living the life you want to live. So that's your assignment. Tonight, daydream. Tomorrow, switch the lens. We'll be together again next week, so that gives us 7 nights of that homework assignment. And you know what? Even if you don't literally see any changes, I guarantee you it's so much fun and it feels good. And the change, well, it's gonna come. My name's Jennifer Coffey. It's been a delight sharing this first podcast with you, the first of what I hope are many. I hope to find you here next week, where we'll dive a little bit deeper into building your blueprint for this life that you're dreaming of now, that's gonna be reality soon. See you soon.